Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joe Law, and I will be your virtual moderator for session 2B, Coordination and Sharing of Resources to Provide Commercial Tobacco Cessation Programs. Dana Carroll is in the room to assist with facilitation. We have 4 presenters in this session, and there will be time at the end of the presentations for questions and answers. I'm honored to introduce our first presenters, Deanna Pearl, Jana Vio, and Reiko Yazi.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks, Joe. Okay. Welcome, everyone, to the training. Again, my name is Deanna Pearl. I'm just one of 3 presenters, so I'm honored to be first. Welcome to the Coordination of Sharing of Resources, Commercial Tobacco Cessation Programs. This is just one way that we have been able to make some difference in the way of meeting people where they're at. My presentation is going to be building a quiet tsunami of support. My name is Deanna Pearl. I am the Commercial Tobacco Prevention and Education Coordinator for the Cowlitz Indian Tribe. I have been working there since 2019, and my work has been directly impacted by what we're presenting today. I just want to acknowledge that we play an essential role in helping people to abstain from commercial tobacco use, as well as manage other health risk behaviors that lead to Native communities' most prevalent and debilitating diseases. We have a big job, and I take that job very seriously, although I joke around, but this is what I love to do. My program was developed in 2019. We had an overarching, created an overarching, because it's a brand new program. We had an overarching goal statement that we wanted to roll into our vision for our health community, which is generational wellness for all of our relations. All my work works towards helping build that vision for the Cowlitz Indian Tribe. I had to come in brand new. People had not really thought about how to start the program, and so I had to go back and do a strategic planning and all those things. And one of the 4 outcomes that I really wanted to focus on was to increase the knowledge and the dangers of tobacco use and attitudes against tobacco use, and how to support those policies to reduce tobacco use initiation, which is was a very interesting. In 2019, I was able to do an assessment in September. So I was hired in August, in September of 2019, and I assessed the knowledge and understanding of my peers within the Cowlitz Indian Tribe. So that really helped manage where we're at and help building that quiet tsunami of support. One of those opportunities, how many of you ever heard of the BTIS, the Basic Tobacco Intervention Skills Training? Yeah? Okay. I don't know your face. I know Aaron's face. This is just one curriculum out there. This is through the University of Arizona, the health partnerships. I was trained early and became a trainer of the BTIS, and we had always planned to do face-to-face trainings, me and Joe, and then COVID hit. And so we had to go on tour virtually. So we developed with help with our partners, we developed an online virtual training, which we call Basic Commercial Tobacco Intervention Skills Training in Native Communities. And so this, with all my partners, we were able to, since 2020, June 2020 was our first BTS training. I've had 18 trainings because I have it into my strategic plan to offer this training. And one of the goals was to have my staff, my peers, be trained in the best practice new information. By educating my staff, I'll be better looking at how to have them carry along with new messaging. It was still pretty old messaging when it came. The population we served was Cowlitz, was my first audience, my peers, and other natives. But you see the majority of the folks that we trained all over the nation is Native American. And others could be other agencies that service Native American. That was our vent, is making sure that we could provide trainings in Pacific Northwest. I provided those trainings for free and manuals for free for my Pacific Northwest folks. So we were able to get more tribes, little tribes, and be trained in this process. I have trained 70 now, almost 82 of my peers, and that has really made a vast difference in how the attitudes of working. If you don't know what BTIS is, I want to make sure and get that out there, because my little world, everybody knows what it is, right? Because that's my world. So I just want to make sure and define it. Um, BTIS for Native communities, it's a best practice developed by the Health Partnership of University of Arizona. But there are three things I want to make sure that you understand. One, we use the 5A process, which is deemed by the CDC, all those other things, to be one of the best approaches in addressing cessation and trying to get people motivated to quitting smoking. But it's even more than that. It is put through a Native lens on how we approach people in a good way, how we approach our relatives in a good way, and to be able to honor traditional tobacco, be able to talk about commercial tobacco, the historic disconnection that we've had, and then really building that tsunami of support in how to keep tobacco sacred and using it in a good way. I am a cessation specialist, so part of my practice is that I help people, if they're willing, I offer, to understand the relationship between tobacco and how they use it, what's the relationship, how they use it for, and oftentimes it comes down to it's their ceremony, their lighting, their cigarette. So it's really addressing the commercial tobacco, the inhalation, and how we can look at our relationship in another way so it makes it good to be able to use this sacred medicine in a good way. Okay. Lots of demographics. So I work with other Native agencies. I work with several Native agencies. Two are here in representation. Maxine from New Mexico and Aaron from Oklahoma. They are my virtual partners in training. I've never met them until today because we had worked very close to their face. I love seeing their physical faces. It's great. So with the help of them, we've been able to not only service my agency in my location, but we've been able to service almost 218 folks around the nation. And then we swap individuals. So if Aaron says, I have someone interested, can they come to your training? It's virtual, absolutely. So that has benefited from doing this online presentation, online training almost exclusively. Or we're planning an in-person, Aaron, come to Washington State. That's great. So it has been imperative to have that partnership. In the basic tobacco intervention skills training, there's a built-in pre and post test, and I focus on three of the questions so that I can measure if people are getting out what they want, that I'm trying to provide out to it. Out of 4.8 out of 5 after training, we have, would you recommend it to colleagues? Yes, I would, very much so. I found the information helpful for my practice. There are people going into this very reluctantly going, I don't know. But then they come out going, I want to know more. And so we offer them to become a trainer of the trainers or to become treatment specialists, which I'm trained in as well. So that has been an ongoing process in which empowering people, because I need minions. We need doing this. My 8th graders love that. Doing this work and empowering your own tribes, empowering your own agencies to provide these trainings. And guess what? You can call me and I'd be more than happy to be an online participant in that training as well. We have lots of comments after the training, but these are the two that really stick out every training. Is we love learning about commercial cessation practice of the Native lens. Because we have several folks have different experiences, they appreciate that view, because I'm cessation, some people are not cessation, some people are just give out the information. So it's really nice to be able to meet people where they're at and answer some questions. Also, I appreciate the different trainers' perspectives. These are the two most named comments in our training. So not only are they getting what they need out of it, they appreciate it, and they want to be able to do a better job at their cessation work or their policy development or their program development or their procedure, what have you. So how has this impacted me in almost 3 years? Is that right? 2 years, sorry, two plus years. So I have some data because I'm very GIPRA data oriented. What you can see here is in 2022 update, and you look at the bottom of the slide on the left-hand side, this is one of the first comments I made when I'm working with my peers at my organization. Well, it's the least of our worries. Or my personal favorite, so you're the lady who's coming to town and teach us all how not to smoke. That was exactly how I was introduced. Well, no, I'm here just to offer options. And then in 2020, keep doing this process, training more and more of my staff, is I'm glad that you do it. So their appreciation, all those kind of things. And then it's like, now I feel like I have support for my clients. So just building the rapport and using the BTIS as a language corridor, creating a common language in which we can assess and introduce folks has been imperative. So now I'm asking, instead of going, I'm glad that you're doing it, can you come speak to my treatment folks? Can you come talk to my youth advocate, youth treatment folks, and talk about what you do? Because in my agency, we offer free cessation for every client, regardless of what service, every one of my peers, and all tribal members. So, and I'm able to offer not only cessation support, I can also assess and work with nicotine replacement therapy. So we have a well-rounded groups. I'm a spoiled princess, I'm here to tell you. So some of the data, as you can see in 2019, on the left-hand side, this is one of the, out of the first assessment. We had a good high awareness of policy. And speaking of policy, they can speak to the policy. What does that mean? What does that look like? Perceived harm was pretty high, actually, considering. And perceived compliance of having the smoke-free campuses or areas away from the 25-foot barrier, or actually, or being able to perceive that people not smoking with clients. That was one of the things that we had really trying to be addressing. And then 2020, we had a little bit reduction of awareness, and we had a lot of reduction in speaking of policies. And that's reasons because between 2019 and 2020, we had I started with 319 people. We had almost 60 new employees. So they really didn't know the policies which to speak to. They didn't know how to know. They didn't even know where to get it on the S drive or whatever we have the S drive to get that policy. So I bumped up my process in my prevention practice and did a lot of media, a lot of outreach to my peers, a lot of things. Built a way to refer, a way to consult. So really became more and more aware, and I became more into classes and into trainings, and they were able to get more awareness. Then you can see in 2021, we have a higher rate of speaking to policies, and it's because of the attitude changing in the importance of doing this work in other practices. You mind, I work for the Homeless Connect. It's important for me. Oh, Deanna, it's really important for me to talk to that because I have people homeless, can't afford their nicotine, whatever they choose, and how can we get them to have a cessation? So it's really important to work with not just the known factors, the unknown factors. VR, vocational rehabilitation, really important to be able to speak to that as well. And then, of course, perceived compliance went up way high because we put in smoking locations. We took all the smoking from all the doorways and created areas where people could smoke. The compliance, the perception of perceived harm went down, and the perception of compliance went up. And that was a really big celebration for us. So people not only, the 83% or 84% of people who didn't smoke in the organization or on the campuses celebrated the fact that we were able to put it into a place that wouldn't impact them. 83% of after my last assessment did not use tobacco product in any manner. So it's, again, change that perception of making accommodations or making appropriate accommodations with respect and dignity. So what does this mean? Where I'm at? Two more minutes? Okay. So this is the data that I'm showing you. So in 2019, we had 13 people engaged in cessation services, and they're offered and counseling, and the quit rate was low. Then you see over the years, that has increased because we created bigger policy, more enforcement of policy, and then the actual consultation through our agencies and our other providers. And then the quit rate has gone up in 2021. We had a quit rate between 2020 and 21 was a 300% rate of change for people quitting smoking. Now, in 2022, as of this quarter, last year we had 20 people quit for at least a year. We now have 10 in our first quarter. So I'm really going to be foreseeing we're going to have some really good rates and and in this next year. So we're on the up and up and up. This is how incorporating a curriculum, whatever that you choose to do, to be able to not only incorporate offering it to people, but changing policy, changing access, and training staff so you're all on the same language. Does that make sense? Okay, we'll be open for questions after, so hold on to them. If you need my information, if you want information on the BTIS program, I have information up here. There's not many, but there's some on the table out there. You're welcome, and my card if you have any other questions. With that, I'm going to introduce Jana Vajelo and Reiko Yazi. Oh, Jana. Jana, are you there?
I am here.
Yay!
Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for attending our session. My name is Jana Vio. I'm from the Pueblo of Acoma. The slide needs to advance, please. It should show my name. There I am. All right, and I am from the Pueblo of Acoma, Coatzi, Gaitawa. I am calling in today from the homelands of the Tiwa people, and I am currently residing in what is now Albuquerque. I am the Commercial Tobacco Control and Prevention Coordinator at the Albuquerque Area Southwest Tribal Epidemiology Center. Such a mouthful, but I'm so glad to be here and to share a little bit of our journey with you. Go to the next slide, please. Wonderful. So we implement the basic tobacco intervention skills training virtually. And when this hit and the pandemic hit us and we needed to get out this training, we thought, let's do it virtually. We reached out.
Jana,
Yes.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but we need to figure out the slides.
I think it's on
Oh,
the
we're
back.
good.
Okay,
Stay on this
okay.
slide. We're good.
Okay, thanks.
This is where I'm at. And so what we did was during this time of the pandemic, we moved virtually. We were able to complete 7 programs and reach 44 participants, and one additional session was to train additional instructors. And so was an exciting time and we embraced it. We thought about what can we do? How can we reach it? And we were able to build connection and partnerships and work nationally with other programs to co-facilitate our sessions. And so I think that was the greatest advantage, because then we don't have to pay for traveling or lodging or food, but we're able to share the knowledge and provide a tool for communities to utilize. I think one of the things to take away from utilizing the basic tobacco intervention skills training is that it can be used multiple ways. It is a tool. And so I always tell people, you know, one size does not fit all. Take what you need and utilize it. Each of our community members who are trying to quit do it differently. And so whatever you can do to help them reach that goal, that's the success. So, you know, you have the component, the one-on-one of utilizing the 5 A's, but I also utilize it more because I'm a program that works with all of the New Mexico tribes. We utilize it to train community members to become the experts. And so it's not just one program utilizing this process, it's multiple programs. So you think about, oh, you know, it's not just behavioral health, it's the prevention program, it's the housing department, it's the taxation department, it's the elderly program, it's the cultural services program. So think about how many different people are speaking the language of commercial tobacco cessation. And it allows them to honor their traditional, cultural, ceremonial, sacred uses of their tobacco. And so I think that's just one of the greatest things, because then you're building that team within each of those communities. I also utilize it to help train our allies and our partners that we have. I chair the Southwest Tribal Tobacco Coalition. And so this is a statewide network that brings in not only tribal communities, but allies to those. So we continue to build partnerships. We continue to strengthen relationships to provide funding opportunities or other training opportunities to our tribal programs, because one does not fit all. You know, we attract different people with our personalities. And so I take that the same with programs. They attract different people to come in and to help assist their community. So I always think about it. I am from the Pueblo of Acoma, but I'm an outsider in terms of I don't work for my tribe. So I come in and I help my community build these programs within their community. And so I always, you know, am respectful in my community. I'm not allowed to touch or utilize the tobacco. And so that's a really great conversation point. It's a protective factor. And we begin to think about how this can have an impact and respecting and having those conversations. So we definitely build partnerships. We're all about sharing that information and sharing the weight. That way, you know, everyone can be supportive. So thank you all so much for taking time to allow me to share how this program has helped my communities that I work with and helped build and strengthen partnerships within the state of New Mexico. And I will hand it over to Reiko.
Excellent. Thank you, Jenna. Thank you, Jana. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Excuse me. I meant to have that off before I got up here. My name is Reiko Yazi, and I am Navajo from New Mexico. Oops, I have a heavy finger. There we go. Nope. You are getting a firsthand example of what I'm going to talk about. Technology. How did we adapt all of this? So I work with Jana. I've been very fortunate to work and partner with Jana. My first introduction into public health was through tobacco and commercial tobacco prevention and education. So currently, I now have the wonderful opportunity to work as a CHW Community Health Worker Program Coordinator. But I have many information, experience, and all sorts of tidbits in my learning from tobacco. So I'm fortunate to continue working in tobacco. So today I'm going to close this up by talking a little bit about how we did this. So commercial tobacco prevention, a lot of what we do is getting out into the community and meeting with organizations and people and trying to share information. And we needed to continue to do that virtually. And so we adapted that. Just as Deanna and Jana were talking about, we had to figure out how we were going to best do that. As many of you have been doing, are doing, may continue to do, your programs have adapted to the virtual medium. So I'm going to scroll through some slides here. And the first we're going to look at is the partners that we have over the past years been collaborating with on an ongoing basis. So we have the benefit, just as Jana and Deanna mentioned, to collaborate with many different programs to reach tribal community members, program coordinators, staff throughout the nation. And so in our little area, I work with the Albuquerque Area Indian Health Board, which is in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And so welcome again to everybody, and virtually welcome to everyone on Zoom. So we have 27 tribal communities that we work with at AAIHB. They are the 19 Pueblos of New Mexico, the 2 Apache tribes, 2 Ute tribes, the some of the communities, satellite communities of the Navajo Nation. And so we cover New Mexico, southern Colorado, and Isleta del Sur Pueblo down in western Texas. So there's a very broad range. And during the lunch break, I had an excellent question come up about common names and usages that we use to refer to different things. Well, the 27 tribal communities we work with, each of them have their different languages. And even if with the Navajo Nation you have the language of Navajo, once you travel to different chapters, there may be different dialects. So part of what we're doing with the basic tobacco intervention skills training for Native communities is trying to engage people and make people aware of all of these different types of minor things, tidbits of information that you may not be aware of. So going forward, we have, oh, I forgot to set my timer. So we have three main takeaways that we wanted you all to have today. The first is collaboration is key to moving forward. 2, engagement will fluctuate. And 3, preparation is vital for smooth sailing. So the first thing that we have slightly touched on is that many tribal communities that we work with in our areas may have limited technological access. They may have limited technological software, hardware that they're using. So keeping all of that in mind, we went forward trying to be as accessible as possible. Through our program at AAIHB and Aztec, we made hardware available for individuals. If someone didn't have a camera but they wanted to use it, we made that available to them. We've also, in collaborating with everyone, we wanted to make sure that our team, Deanna, Aaron, Maxine, Teresa Clay is a member of our Albuquerque team. She works with the Indian Health Service. Her and Jana have been providing the BTIS trainings for a very long time. They actually trained me as a facilitator. And so we all make sure that we're on the same page. So we have each other's numbers. We have a backup plan. We all know who's going to be facilitating what module. We had an instance recently where one of our trainings, the tech just didn't want to cooperate. And the Zoom went kaput. So all of our attendees, all of our facilitators just went dark. And so we had a few minutes where we had the slight panic. I'm getting goosebumps just as I'm remembering. But we had a plan. We had each other's contact information. We coordinated and we were able to get back going within, what was it, 10, 15 minutes, if that. So we were able to keep going and we had such a great connection, and that was a wonderful class because they responded quickly. We got to get the meeting back up and the training continued forward. And that was just a matter of us being comfortable with each other and aware of what's happening. With everything that we're doing, we want to make sure that we're in contact with our team and aware of the tech that we're working with. So engagement will fluctuate. So the facilitators may not always be available. We have a very excellent facilitator in our midst today, Aaron Williams. Things and schedules may change so that a facilitator who was supposed to facilitate one training may end up or module may have to end up facilitating 2 or possibly 3. So it's about us being aware and being able to jump in when we need to and pick up what we have to do. So one of the things with our attendees in the virtual world, it's very difficult to connect with anyone. So right now with everyone on Zoom, I just see a camera. I can't even see your faces up on our screen here. So how do we engage with everyone? We use our chat a lot. We have someone, our facilitator, who's watching the chat so that we can acknowledge any comments that are continuing to come through. We interrupt each other as we're doing our training so that we're able to, in as accurate and real time as possible, answer people's questions or respond to their comments. And we also call out on individuals. So if we're asking questions and we want participation or engagement, we'll call out individuals. Deanna Pearl, what's your comment on that? Maxine Daggett, do you have something to say? And so that's not a matter of trying to put people on the spot. It's more about trying to engage people. And we've actually had some of the great comments and discussions come out because of that. So people who may not have otherwise engaged, if we called out for them to participate and they did, then we were able to gain from their experience and hear the comments that they have. So that's one of the things as facilitators we've had to get used to, being in that teacher, so to speak, mode of calling people out and asking them to engage. So we also have preparation is vital for smooth sailing. We mail our training materials to the individuals who attend our programs. And in order to do that, we have our registration deadline. We don't have the comfort of having people just show up, hand them their packet, and then we get going. Because people are attending virtually, we have to have their packets and training packets, materials and such to them before. So it's a whole team that puts that together. For our program, Del Rey Peterson is our executive assistant who does all of that amazing work. She makes sure that everyone who needs to have a packet and has the pretty color highlighters and pens and stickies gets them. We would not be able to do what we do without her contribution. And making sure, again, that we all know what's going to go on. We have people's numbers, we have facilitators, special guests, our attendees, we have all of their information to keep going forward. And I am not the most tech savvy person at all. I'm staying very close to here and I got lost on my way here. So it's very funny that I am a Zoom person now and that I'm comfortable being able to use it. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. And we can all do it together, which is a great thing and which is what we're learning. So in whatever aspect we're doing, tech is just going to be a part of it, I think, going forward. Today, we have in the room with us, we have the excellent gentleman back, Peter. We have David, who was here earlier, and Bill. They are 3 tech people here today who were excellent about getting us set up. It's a process that we have going forward here. And so with that, oh, my timer's going off. So thank you for listening. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your sessions here today. And I think, are you Lou? Okay. So next up, we have Lou, who will be talking with you all. Oh, and I apologize. I'm going to go through these. These are many of the programs and collaborators that we've worked with. So hopefully, if you do not see your program name up on these slides, then maybe we have a collaboration in our future that could be happening. We have many, many people and programs that we work with because we could not do this alone. So thank you once again, everyone. And we are moving on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deanna, Jana, and Reiko. That was just such an excellent presentation, and I loved all the nuts and bolts that you gave us to think about and head home with. So up next, I'm pleased to announce somebody that came just straight from the airport. So she, within the past 30 minutes, arrived. So we're just so thankful that she made it in here safe and sound. So up next is Lou Morner.
I planned it just in time for lunch and then missed it. So good morning. And since I did just now arrive, please allow me to do my own land acknowledgement and thank the people whose lands we are occupying for allowing us to join in good medicine. And thank you, everyone, for allowing me to be here today. So again, my name is Lou. I want to acknowledge my partner in the back here, Dr. Claridina Soto, whom I have not seen in person in so long. I just want to run and hug her. So I've heard a lot of the fellow presenters today talk about facilitation. And that's what I'm really going to talk about, not so much the product that is Second Wind, the Cessation project for adults, but how facilitators make or break the process for somebody who's trying to go through the process of quitting. Because, that's grief, that's you're losing your friend, your partner, the person that doesn't judge you, all of that. So I'm really here to talk to you about what will both the participant learn, but more importantly, what is a facilitator going to learn so that they can give the best services to the clients that they have in their community? I want to acknowledge also Cynthia Coachman at the time. I'm using her name that she wrote this because if we don't go back to the origins, then we're taking somebody else's thunder. So banging the drum for her. She took this from the American Cancer Society's Second Wind, is now based on Fresh Start. So again, going all the way back to the roots there. And the whole goal is to provide behavior modification and allowing the individual to interview themselves. So it's not even so much motivational interviewing, which there is a lot of that, but it's how do we assess ourselves where we are now? Where did we come from? How did we get into this habit? Why is the spirit of this addiction still visiting us? And how can we release it? So again, acknowledging all the work that was put into this. If you look at the program as it was built by Cynthia, it was very much meant for the Midwestern tribes, of which I was one at the time. I resided in Kansas at the time she was writing this, and it works great for that population, but oh Lord, you hit the state of California and forget about it. Nothing works there unless it was created there, but then it goes outside and works great. So I took what she trained me in and then modified it over a period of time using different individuals in our community. And so we still have the same basic tenets that were built into the American Cancer Society. So none of that changed. Everything that was foundational that will help a person move through the stages of change are still in this. So you're still going to learn your basic facts. You're still going to learn why I'm doing it. Notice that says individual. This isn't about everybody, it's about you. And that's why the facilitator needs to make sure that that person understands it's about you and you and you and not the people sitting next to you. You're going through it together, but this is an individual journey. And then we eventually get them through the process of understanding how it is that they can release and where they get to cessation, but again, on their own time. It's participant directed, and this is where it's vastly different from what Cynthia had, is this does not go session 1, session 2, session 3, session 4. It is not linear like that. Session 1 and 2 will stay the way they are. You need to have foundation, and you need to have that time with them. Then that person or that group will democratically decide which session of the remaining ones is next. What do you want to do now? Because if I tell you we're going to talk about communication next and you're worried about gaining 15 pounds, I've already lost your interest. I've lost you, and I'm telling you that you're not important, and I am. And the curriculum matters and not you. So again, all of these components stay in there, but they get mixed around according to how the individuals or collectively as a group want to run the class. So here's the facilitator skill sets. And I do not train to the curriculum. And I know Miss Carrie in the back has had 1 million of her staff put through this, and she can attest to the fact that I will not train you to the curriculum. I assume you all are literate and you can read it on your own, and you could literally read it because it's a script. But if you don't know how to facilitate another human's grief process and addiction simultaneously, we're just harming them more than we're helping them at that point. So we're going to make sure that we do all of this, that we have the focus on the participants, that we're recording according to our individual needs within our systems. So, I can't tell you what you do and do not have to prescribe for yours, what you have to have written as a consent or what you have to have on file, but do something along those lines and do track it, because it makes the individual understand that they have a compact with you now. They have now taken your time and you're going to give them something in return for that, but this is a compact. So we're in this together. We want to make sure that we're promoting cessation first and foremost, but we're never cheerleaders, ever. And those of you photographing, you can have all my slides. I truly be in the moment. Your goal is to promote structure, and you'll see that here in just a second. Every single session looks exactly the same. You come in, you're greeted, we talk about this, we do everything the same. Just like if you have posters in your office, by the third week, you don't remember those posters are there, they're just background because you're so used to it, it's normalized. So that's what we do as facilitators. We normalize this process of them coming in, getting oriented, and then going through all of these skills right here. So that one I'm gonna pause on for a minute. Listening skills. You don't listen with this, right? So remember, when you're in there, you are talking to guide the first session or so, but after that, this is what you look like. You are just a big old reflector of everything they say. And that's really the best goal as a facilitator, to hear, to clarify, to make responses that are in your voice, but acknowledge that you're hearing what they're saying and allowing them to say, yeah, that's exactly what the communication I'm intending is to be. The format for every single session, again, you just set it up the same way every time they come in. They know there's going to be an introduction. They know they're going to deal with some kind of strategies. You're going to cover what you covered, and then you're getting homework. You will always give them homework. It's called accountability. Otherwise, you're just there for an hour. Cool, fun rapping with you. See you next week. I don't owe you anything between now and then. You give them homework because they're working on themselves. It's not about you. They're not trying to impress you. They're not trying to get things done for brownie points. Whatever you can do to give them brownie points, though, you go right on ahead and do it. If you have swag, if you have things that you can do to entice people to come, if you have vouchers for food, for childcare, for transportation, any of the above, give it to the folks so that they can come and attend without barriers. But first and foremost, get your best referral system going. And the ladies here were talking earlier about how important it is to have friendships. If you're not one of those bullet points, get to be one of her bullet points, right? So again, do that throughout the community. Talk to your schools, talk to your medical clinics, talk to everybody that's ever met an Indian. Even if they're not in their clinic, they need to know that there are resources specifically geared towards them as individuals. Barriers, incentives, again, all of that right there. Session number 1, just straight out of the gate. Where do we talk about addiction? We don't. Where do we talk about, oh, you're terrible, you're an addict, you're la, 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 la. We don't. We talk about the product, and we talk about addiction. because you're setting the base, right? So this is just all the stuff you need to do. You get your little contract. You're going to have 6 or 8 weeks together. Here's where we go, blah, blah, blah. But when we get you together, we're going to talk about the fact you will quit, but not today. You've got 3 to 4 weeks because we need to build in new behaviors while you learn how to quit. So that's your job as a facilitator, is to keep them till their quit date, but incentivize them enough to get to that quit date. And then as each session goes, it's just more of the same. Okay, now we're going to ask you, which method did you choose? We talked about cold turkey, tapering, what have you last week. Now, which one did you choose? We're always going to give you a week to think about things. You have to give people time. A lot of facilitators, oh, you're here, you're ready to quit. I'm firing that facilitator straight out the gate. Only thing quitting is you, right? So you got to make sure that you're meeting them where they're at. And if you're in a group, they're all individuals, and you meet them right where they're at. They each will have their own quit dates. You're going to have a first few days that teaches them how to get over the hump. You're going to go into danger situations. That can be conversations with other people. That can be other drugs. It can be caffeine. It could be gambling. It could be whatever your buddy was while you were using. This is the one session that I read the entire thing to the facilitators and then make them look at the poor communication skills and say, how many of those do I own? And now let's switch you to the other side. So where all you own are the good communication. But even in doing this, a lot of people see where their faults are in themselves in blaming others for nagging them, when indeed it's just their filtering process and their communication style is conflicting. We get to the point where we talk about long-term success. What does maintenance look like to you? How are we going to go forward? And then there's just 2 open sessions. And the reason that we found that out was Cynthia's original one was based on the Cancer Society, which was 6 sessions. And then we found that our native clients needed 2 more sessions. They were not quitting. 85% of our clients, 85, let me repeat that, 85% of our clients stayed quit for 1 year. 85% for getting 2 extra sessions of help that we laid out just like the other ones. Hi, how you doing? What'd you do last week? What would you like to brag about? How can I help you? What tools are you using? What tools can we refresh? And you just go through 2 sessions and let them run it. Then you have some supplementals that help personalize it if they need information on grief, on nicotine replacement therapy, on yoga, on stress management, on time management, on how to deal with your children, on how to deal with your spouse. You pull those things in, they're built into it, but you can add to it. And I just want to acknowledge last, even though I'm late, I absolutely have to acknowledge that a lot of the work that we do, Claridina and I, is in collaboration with our African-American partners. And they actually paid to help get me out here today, so bless them for that. But we're looking to do some collaborative processes with some Native youth and with some African-American youth here coming up in the future. So if anybody's kind of interested in having some youth do some really cool artsy media stuff, come hit me up afterward. I just had to throw that out there. But otherwise, thank you all so very much. And again, if you want slides, happy to share them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lou. That was such a wonderful presentation, and just wonderful, excellent presentations in this session. So now we're going to go ahead and open it up for some questions from the audience, in-person audience, as well as our Zoom audience. So let us know what your questions are. And if the speakers want to come back up here, that'd be great.
While you all think of your amazing questions. So, hello again. While you all are thinking of your questions, we wanted to lead you all in an example, 2 examples of what we do during our trainings. So those of you in attendance here will not be able to participate in this one in the same way, but everyone on Zoom, one of the main ways that we talked about is using our chat as much as possible. So if you would, and Jenna, if you could assist with this, if you could type into the chat the icebreaker question for us, please. And the icebreaker question we can use, unless you have one, Jana, is what was your first or favorite car? That's Deanna's favorite. So we can type that into the chat. And those of you here, if you can think about your first or your favorite car. Okay, so while everyone's doing that, our second example is one of the things that we do because we're sitting at our computers or in a training room all day is try to get up and move. So if I could encourage everyone in the room to please stand. Those of you at home as well, if you could please stand. And if you're comfortable doing this on camera, please feel free to keep it on. If you want to turn off your camera for a little bit, feel free to do that too. Our wonderful Jana is going to lead us in one of our examples that we do. It's to get people moving, and this is called a ride on the bus. Jana, take us away.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You can write your answer in the Q&A. We'll know that you're not asking a question, but because the chat is disabled, what was your first car? Go ahead and throw it into the Q&A, and that would be great. And then we'll be able to see those. So thank you all so much. So one of the great things about being virtual and remembering we have to move. We can't, we used to do activities and building games. So I'm going to take you on a ride. So I want you to throw your arms out and I want you to jump on this bus. We're going, do big turns, fill those arms. And then we see some people over there we haven't seen in a while. Give them a big wave with your right arm. Hello, everybody. We're coming back in person. We're driving. Oh no, we see some people over there with your left arm. Wave it big. Those are our community members who are still joining us on chat. Hello, we see you and you're a part of our community too. We're driving. Oh no, there's a res dog running in front of us. Slam on your brake. Use your left foot, slam on that brake. Reach out with your toes. Please be careful, take care of yourself. All right, we're going again. Step on that gas because we're gonna be late to that session and we don't wanna be late. So reach out with your right leg, stretch it out, do a little quick ankle turn if you're standing up. If you're sitting down, press on that gas, flex your foot. We're driving. All right, we've arrived. Thank you all so much.
Thank you for that, Jana. So that's just an example. There are many different ways that we'll try to just interject that throughout our trainings as we're going through, just to get people moving and to shake up the brain a little bit from something that's separate from the curriculum. Thank you.
Wow, I feel so energized. Great. Any questions? Great. We have one from Abby in the audience. Hold on, Abby. We're going to, I think, get you a microphone. Yes. So the online audience can hear you.
I have two. The first one, I guess, is for all of the speakers, which can you clarify for me? It sounded like some of the first sessions were to train, social and public health professionals, right? And then the last presentation sounded like that was for individuals who use tobacco who were trying to quit. Am I right on that, or did I get something wrong? There's sort of different types of sessions, right? Okay.
So the first training, the BTIS, there is actually two ways of training. You can train medical professionals, and then you can train, what we do is we train our peers, and then we train other individuals who don't necessarily do intervention, but getting the language. So the trainings for anybody, the basic trainings for anybody. Then we offer a treatment specialist training, which is like if you're going to be doing the interventions, if you're going to be doing following through, and then we do the trainers, which training people to do what we do. So we invite everybody from front desk to community members that you're just interested in helping your family. So did that help?
Yes. So, but for Luz, the sessions you were describing sounded like individual people who were trying to quit themselves, right? So what I'm training are facilitators to run Second Wind. And so that's why I'm just really talking about the facilitation skills. But it is a cessation curriculum that has been nativized specific for the delivery. But much like hers, the majority of the people who run it are medical professionals or mental health professionals or recovery specialists. But we also train bus drivers and former people who've been through recovery, anybody who wants to run it and has a facility and can pass my very high standards for a trainer can absolutely do it. Yeah, great question. My other question is for you, Lou, which is, you said you were doing shared sessions with African Americans and Native Americans. Can you talk about what that experience was like? Where does the experience and the cessation environment overlap? Where do they differ? I'm interested in hearing what you've learned so far. So me personally, when I run it, because I don't just train folks in it, writing it was because there wasn't anything. It wasn't like, hey,
keep my name out there. So I still run the class, and I've run it with a lot of young Native and Black, and actually a lot of Latino gentlemen as well in there at the same time. The lived experience of the oppression, of the not being a white person, of not having white privilege, of also knowing that the tobacco industry is specifically targeting your population is connecting to them on a younger level. Not so much adults. I've run it with adults too, but they're all just like, they're living their addiction. Whereas younger people are still living a life where they're trying to find an identity. And when they find out the identity they've developed was developed by somebody else's science who taught them to think that way, to, put them into this adult lifestyle, then they get really angry. And so that lived experience between just like the oppression of the two. So what Carol Magruder, who's from AATCLC, wants to do is get our young people together. So a group of youth, Black and Native, together to do basically like sort of spoken word, rap, hip hop against the tobacco industry and the way they're being targeted, to try to get other people to start taking cessation seriously, especially around vaping. I know it's a long answer, but it's...
Great. Any more questions? Yeah, Alyssa, we have
I
one.
think there was one from the virtual audience.
Okay.
So let me run back to my computer here.
Great. We'll take one from the virtual, and then we'll have one more up front when we're done with that.
All right. What would be one piece to take away when it comes to motivating clients or participants to quit smoking in your programs? My biggest hurdle is motivating. How do you keep engagement or interest? I think that's just broad for any presenter.
I'll share first. So a lot of the times I think about, that for myself. What keeps me motivated? I try to meet our clients and our participants where they are. Just the general conversation, what is their motivation? And trying to find things that help to keep them there, and also knowing that it's okay if you're not successful on the first time. I'm still going to be here. Your community will still help you. So again, it's that reassurance that we're there when they are ready. And motivation is hard. Behavior change is hard. And I think just replaying that message, it takes, to create a new behavior is between like 30 days and a year, depending on what literature you read, but it is a big gap. So asking them to, think about other things where they were successful in, staying motivated or creating that change, because then you're helping them to identify, what their strengths are. Again, how are you empowering them to stay motivated?
I have one of the most interesting things for me is I work with a lot of people who are in treatment or are recovery, what have you, and they want to quit smoking because they went through treatment. And I remind them, it's like, how did you get clean? And well, this. It's the same way with nicotine. It's the same application of processes. You already have the knowledge. We just now have to turn our minds onto, oh, nicotine is just as addictive as cocaine or heroin or what have you. It's just addiction is addiction is addiction. Apply that knowledge. And they're like, oh, I guess I already have that. I'll talk to my sponsor. So just reminding them they already have the innate skill sets.
Hi, my question is for Lou. My name is Nicole. I'm actually representing the AATCLC. Greetings from Carol and the entire council. Yeah, probably the representative. So my question was actually regarding, I may have missed it, but you mentioned at the end that participants stayed quit, 85% of participants stayed quit for 1 year when 2 extra sessions were added. Was that in addition to the 6, making it 8? I just kind of want to know, what was the indication for that addition of the 2 extra sessions?
So I asked some folks, I changed it, oh, I'm sorry. Forget, there's people online, yes. I changed the program from 6 to 8 weeks after asking some folks to go through a 6-month pilot with me, very informal, like no science behind it, but just I've adapted this. We talked to nutritionists, yogis, like diabetic specialists, like everybody you could imagine in Indian country to try to formulate a more useful curriculum for California. When I asked them, would you please respond to me in 6 months when I call you, which is a big ask for Indian country, where people are very transient, would you please let me know if you're still using or not and how successful this was? They came back at me at 3 months and were mad. I mean, they came to me and they were angry. They're like, we thought you were going to help us quit and this really sucked. And I said, well, I failed you and I'm sorry and I'll fix that. And so I went and redid it a second time and put those people back through a test. And it turned out they just needed extra support. So when I just started asking, how did I fail? Like, I don't see where the curriculum has gone wrong, but I will change anything. Where did I fail? It was too soon. You cut us off too soon. And so I said, how much longer? Because if I give you 2 weeks, that's fine. But if I give you more, we're delaying the inevitable. So we tested it for 2 weeks for a year and then followed those people for another year subsequent. And that's when we got that information. 20, 85. Yep. So, and it matched exactly the 20% that quit the ACS curriculum. So there was no change from baseline in California. Not slighting Cynthia ever. The stuff she does is great in the Midwest because it's a different audience, very different audience. Yeah, great question.
We've got one more question from the online audience. The question is, to start a toolkit or quick kit for tobacco intervention program process, what would you recommend for a started tool quick kit?
I love quick kits. It's my favorite. What I do is with the BTIS, there are several things we talk about in the training. There are 3 things we look at. We look at behavioral, we call it 3 chains: behavior, psychological, and social. And in my quick kits, I put things that address all of them. Something for behavioral, to help get over those nicotine withdrawal symptoms, things to chew on, things to do like that, teas and things. For psychological, I provide little finger toys a lot. So just like little, what are they, marble in a net, those kind of things are really valuable. So anywhere they can have that, of it in the car, wherever they have that. And then I have social. We have I do a lot of products with working together and sharing something. So you can share that toy, you could share the information. So I make sure and put the information about our program and how to step forward in that. So I offer teas, I offer toothpicks. What else do I offer? Toothpicks. I offer a lot of things. I've had to skinny things down a lot, but people seem to really appreciate those ideas. Not exactly the same thing, but those ideas that they can use, because when you're going through a quit plan, you're like, what are your tools that you can have next to you instead of trying to reach for that cigarette in the car? What's going to be in that space that you usually left the cigarettes or in your purse? Oh, I have those toothpicks. I have that xylitol gum. I had those are the tools they can put in there, and people come up with amazing things that they put in there. I know I'm going to put my grandson's picture on my what have you. So it's really personalized, but to start a quick kit is really have to address those 3 things: behavioral, psychological, and social.
Great, wonderful. So right before we wrap it up, we're going to do just a check-in on the icebreaker. And we wanted to know, Jana, if you're able to see if any of the responses came in, if you want to read one out.
Oh yeah, we have a lot. So thank you all for answering that question. We have a Dodge Dynasty, an 88 Honda Accord was their first car, a Mini Cooper, a 1962 Chevy Nova, a Chevy Equinox, an RX-7, a 1976 Gran Torino, a Toyota Celica. My first car was a 1966 Ford Mustang. My favorite car was a Mazda 6, a Ford Focus. So a Honda Civic. A Honda Sonata. So thank you all for taking to answer that question. My first car was a Volkswagen Beetle.
Awesome. Thank you, Jenna, for reading all those for us. So that our people in the room are included, I'm going to actually bring the microphone to a person to answer the question for us. And you're the first person I see. So what was your first car or favorite car, please?
My first car was my grandpa's car. It was a Chevy Celebrity.
Okay, and we're going to get a couple more people. Sir?
Chrysler 300.
Awesome. Chrysler 300. And let me come all the way over here. Your first car?
My first car was a rusty 1981 Chevy Citation.
All right. Sounds good. I got two on this side. Let me get one more over here. Go ahead.
A 1998 Toyota 4Runner.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for participating, sharing. Thank you.
Thank you. That was wonderful. And my first car was a 2000 Honda Civic. Called her Sebastian.